The mystery? What if I told you that one man born in a small wooden house in rural America quietly designed the financial, economic, and even educational system you live under today? What if the prices you pay, the taxes you owe, the medicines you take, the way you work, save, and invest, all trace back to decisions made by a single individual over 100 years ago? And what if I told you he never needed political office, never commanded an army, and never held a government title yet shaped global capitalism more than any president, king, or economist ever has? This is the part where people usually say, that's impossible. One man can't build a system so large. But you're about to see exactly how he did. Because this isn't just the story of a businessman the story of the architecture of modern power. How one man created a model so effective that you still live inside it, whether you recognize it or not. The fuel in your car, the medicine in your cabinet, the structure of your bank, the taxes you pay, the companies that rule the stock market, the foundations that shape public policy. None of these evolved naturally, they were engineered. And to understand how our world works, you must understand him. This is the story of John D. Rockefeller, the man who designed the system you can never escape. Set the stage. The world before Rockefeller. America was chaotic, not just economically, morally, politically, technologically. Oil was a new discovery, extracted by amateurs who dug holes with shovels and hoped to get lucky. Prices changed daily. People went bankrupt in weeks. Refineries exploded every month. There was no standardization, no regulation, no safety, and no long-term planning. It was the perfect environment for competition, and the perfect stage for collapse. In this world of unpredictability, hundreds of small oil businesses rose and fell. Most made terrible products: kerosene that could burn your house down, lubricants that damaged machines, gasoline no one wanted. Every refinery believed it was the future. None understood the storm coming their way, because somewhere in the chaos, a teenager named John D. Rockefeller was studying accounting, discipline, cost control, and the psychology of money. He wasn't interested in oil, he was interested in systems. And he realized something everyone else ignored: if you can control the system, you don't need to compete. While other oil men dreamed of getting rich, Rockefeller dreamed of something bigger: permanent power. Origins: the making of a system builder. Rockefeller's childhood shaped his worldview. His father was a traveling con man, Devil Bill, who vanished for months, sold fake medicines, and taught John a cold lesson: the world is full of fools. If you don't take advantage of them, someone else will. His mother, in complete contrast, was deeply religious, disciplined, and obsessed with moral order. John grew up balancing these two worlds: ruthless strategy from his father, unbreakable discipline from his mother. He learned to save pennies, track every cent, and never act emotionally. He lived with one goal: control eliminates fear. At 16, he became an accountant, calculating costs down to fractions of a cent. At 20, he started a small commodities partnership. And then, he saw oil. Not the oil itself, but the inefficiency, the waste, the lack of system. He realized he could bring order to a chaotic market and profit from every part of it. Rise, the system takes shape. Rockefeller entered the oil industry not as a dreamer, but as an engineer of efficiency. Where others saw oil as a product, he saw it as a logistical empire. He cut costs where no one else even measured them. He purchased barrels in bulk, negotiated transport rates, and designed refineries like factories: organized, calculated, predictable. But the real breakthrough came when he realized one simple truth: you need to compete with your rivals. If you can absorb them. This began the legendary Standard Oil strategy: buy your competitors, undercut those who refuse, make secret deals with railroads, control shipping, refining, distribution, and retail, create a network so efficient others can't survive outside it. Within a decade, Rockefeller didn't just dominate oil, he restructured the industry entirely. But here's the twist most people never learn: Rockefeller wasn't building a company, he was building a prototype for modern corporate power. Centralized control, vertical integration, data-driven decisions, standardization, scale through mergers, lobbying, tax engineering, foundations influencing public policy, financial instruments linking all of it together. Sound familiar? It should. This is the blueprint used by tech giants, pharmaceutical giants, banking giants, even governance today. Rockefeller built it first, the breaking point when the system exposed its power. By the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled roughly 90% of America's kerosene and refined oil market. The company was so large, so efficient, and so deeply connected to railroads, banks, and politicians that competitors didn't stand a chance. And this scared people. Journalists called him a monopolist. Politicians called him a threat to democracy. Rival businessmen called him the end of capitalism. But Rockefeller didn't want to destroy the free market. He wanted to define it. Still, the public backlash grew. Investigations started. Laws were proposed. And in 1890, the Sherman Antitrust Act was passed aimed directly at Standard Oil. But Rockefeller didn't flinch. He simply adapted the model. He reorganized Standard Oil into a trust structure so innovative it confused regulators. When trust laws became stricter, he broke the trust into dozens of companies, all secretly controlled by Standards Board. When states tried to limit ownership, he moved to another state. When the government tried to track operations, he built more layers. The more they tried to break the system, the more complex it became. And then, the inevitable happened. The U.S. Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil to be dissolved in 1911. People celebrated. Newspapers said the monopoly was dead. But they didn't understand the genius of Rockefeller's system, because when Standard Oil broke apart into companies like Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, Amoco, Conoco, Marathon, Sohio, the total value of all the pieces skyrocketed. The breakup made Rockefeller the richest man in modern history, not poorer. The system didn't die, it multiplied. And the world learned an uncomfortable truth. Systems once built cannot be killed, they simply evolve. Fallout, the system takes over the world. After the breakup, Rockefeller was wealthier than ever. But something even more important happened. His model became the template for modern capitalism. Other industries copied him: steel, banking, pharmaceuticals, automobiles, telecommunications, food production, retail, technology, energy. Governments also copied him: centralization of power, standardized systems, regulatory structures, tax frameworks, public foundations, influencing policy, and Rockefeller himself expanded into new arenas. 1. Banking and finance. His investments influenced Chase Bank, one of the largest financial institutions today. The system of consolidated banking mirrored his corporate model. 2. Medicine and pharmaceuticals. His foundations reshaped medical education, funding research that eventually fueled the rise of the pharmaceutical industry. 3. Education. He funded universities, curriculum standards, and national education models built around industrial efficiency. 4. Global politics. His foundations influenced international health policy, economic modernization programs, and scientific research. He created a system where private capital could shape public life, quietly, indirectly, permanently. He realized something revolutionary. If you control the foundation, you influence the future. Failed fixes. Nahud one could undo his model. Every attempt to prevent Rockefeller-style dominance has failed. Antitrust laws created new corporations that became even larger. Regulation made companies more complex, not weaker. Globalization multiplied scale. Modern tech companies adopted Rockefeller's methods even more aggressively. Governments tried breaking monopolies, capping ownership, regulating prices, limiting mergers, restricting political influence, but none of it worked, because the world now runs on the very system he created. Centralized, efficient, interconnected power structures. You can break a company. You can't break a system, and that is why his influence lives on. Modern parallels, the pattern returns. Look around you. Energy giants, vertically integrated, global, politically connected. Pharmaceutical giants, research, patents, manufacturing, distribution, marketing. Tech giants, controlling ecosystems, platforms, data, payments. Financial giants, banks merged into megabanks, too big to fail. Retail giants, centralized logistics, supply chains, and pricing power. Nations structured around standardized economic models. Every single one follows the Rockefeller blueprint, and the data is shocking. The top 5 companies in the S&P 500 now control over 27% of its total value. The largest banks hold more assets than the GDP of most nations. 4 companies control 80% of global social media traffic. 3 oil corporations produce a third of U.S. fuel. 2 companies control most global cloud infrastructure. 1 company controls 90% of online search. These aren't coincidences. These are echoes. The same pattern replicates itself again and again because it's designed to. Rockefeller didn't just build an oil empire. He built a self-replicating system, one that rewards scale, punishes inefficiency, and concentrates power. He didn't create he streamlined it into a machine that now runs the world, and you live inside it every day whether you know it or not. Final section: takeaways. Warning. Call to action. Takeaway 1. Systems shape behavior more than individuals. Rockefeller didn't need political power. He built a structure so efficient that everyone, governments, businesses, consumers, became part of it. Takeaway 2. Power always centralizes. From oil to tech, banking to pharmaceuticals, the Rockefeller blueprint reappears in every major industry. The names change, but the pattern doesn't. Takeaway 3. You can't escape a system by ignoring it. To escape it by understanding it. Rockefeller's model teaches one truth. The people who succeed aren't the ones who fight the system, but the ones who learn how it works. Warning. The next era of consolidation has already begun. Tech, AI, energy transition, global finance, each is entering a Rockefeller-style convergence. The winners will control not products, but entire ecosystems. The question is, will you be shaped by the system, or will you learn to navigate it? Call to action. If you want more deep, brutally honest breakdowns of the systems controlling your world, financial, political, technological, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. You're about to see the hidden architecture of power like you've never seen before. Because to understand the future, you must first understand the system built by John D. Rockefeller.